So Yaqub says in the 31st verse of Genesis chapter 25 and 31, Yaqub said, "Sell me this day thy birthright. Sell me this day thy birthright." The Bekurna. There are some matters concerning the Bekurna that we need to become acquainted with. Some very important matters with the Bekurna, the birthright, which also means the firstborn, the status. The birthright is that status of firstbornship. He said, "Sell me. Sell it to me." Right? So Esau said, "Behold, I am at the point to die," because he was hungry. You have to remember, he was hungry. He was not wounded to death. He didn't have a sickness or a disease, but he was hungry. But that hunger for the natural, physical food felt like death to him. And he said, "And what profit shall this Bekurna do to me?" What profit? You know what I'm saying? What profit? I'm hungry, it can't feed me. You know those people who talk that sort of way about spiritual things. They'll be like, it can't feed you. You know, in other words, like it's meaningless, because they are one of those two types of people. Basically, the two types, the two manners, two nations is the physical nation and the spiritual nation. You see, in the world, it seems as though the physical nation, the people who trust in the flesh, are stronger than the people who trust in the spirit. I mean, just look around. You can see the testimony to that. You understand? Every single day. But there's some elements about the Bekurna that we need to become acquainted with and we need to learn. Now, the Bekurna had three elements. The first element is that until the establishment of the Aaronic priesthood, the head of the family exercised priestly rights. Until the Aaronic priesthood, or Levi priesthood, it was the head of the family, the Ras of the Beit Seb, that exercised priestly rights. Do you know that in the present day and time of Rastafari, we're in such the same way? Because this is the groundation and foundation. We already know that the Levitical covenant, you understand, or the Levitical order rather, has been superseded by the Judaic or of Judah, and we are of Moa Anbesa Ze'ima Negeda Yehuda of the conquering line of the tribe of Judah. So we know that Judah, you understand, has superseded the Levitical priest order, which is the Aaronic priesthood. So that means that the head, each Ras, you understand, each Rastafari brethren, you are the head of your family. So, therefore, you must exercise priestly rights. But in order to exercise priestly rights, you need to know of the Orit, the law, the Torah. You need to know Torah in order to know what are those priestly rights that you are duty-bound and lawfully bound in the higher law, the eternal law, the true law, because as we say, this whole earth, you understand, this whole earth is like a crime scene. You understand? And it's under judgment. You understand? And in order for that to be fulfilled, those of the kingdom, and those of the kingdom must be those of the true priesthood, must be prepared. This is why Satan has so heavily fought against the true ministry, the true ministering of it, and tried to prevent ones by any means of distraction from these teachings and away from these teachings, because once your head and heart really grips that truth and you really lay hold of it, when you lay hold of it, that there's another one for the spiritual kingdom. That's what Revelation talks about, the kingdom of the priesthood. You understand? A kingdom of priests. That's what we are to be. So the Bekurna, one of the first elements is that until the establishment of the Aaronic priesthood, the head of the family exercised the priestly rights. Secondly, the Abrahamic family held the Edenic or the Edenawi, the Eden promise of the Satan bruiser, So the Abrahamic family holds that Edenic promise of being the Satan bruiser, of bruising Satan's head, according to Genesis 3 and 15. Abel, Set, Shem, Abraham, Yitzhak, Esau, but put an italics there. Now, thirdly, the third element of the Bekurna of the birthright or the firstbornship is that Esau or Esau, as the firstborn, was in the direct line of the Abrahamic promise of the earth blesser. He's now in that direct line by being that firstborn of being the earth blesser, or one can even call it the Georgis. You understand? The earth worker, but the work is the work of the blessing. You understand? Being the one to exercise those priestly rights. Now that's according to Genesis 12:3. For all that was revealed in Esau might have been fulfilled, those two great messianic promises. This birthright Esau sold for a momentary fleshy gratification. For a momentary, he sold it. Yaqob's conception of the Bekurna, the birthright, the firstbornship, or the Horus, the HERU, you understand, the Horusship, at that time was doubtless carnal. It still was carnal and inadequate. What Jacob's conception of what the birthright and the firstborn status was still, no doubt, carnal and inadequate. But notice this, it's his desire for it, because he had a desire for it, and Esau had no desire for it. You see what I'm saying? And therefore, according to the law of the spirit, the law of attraction, like attract like, because he desired it, and the birthright, the firstbornship, the HORUS-HOOD desires, the Christhood or the Messiahhood desires ones to desire it. You understand? Like attract like, that electromagnetivity, you know, that magnetivity, like attract like. But Esau, it was his, but he was willing to sell it, to exchange it for a momentary, fleshy, carnal gratification for his belly. Yaqub, his conception was not highly spiritual and perhaps inadequate at that time, but it was his desire. That was the evidence. There is the evidence or the proof of the true faith and the true firstborn, those who seek it. So, verse 33, and Yaqub said, swear to me this day. In other words, give me your word bond, your kal, kidan, your word covenant. Make a covenant. Give me your word oath, your word agreement. Swear to me this day. And he swore to him. He didn't say swear to God. He didn't say swear in your mama, your papa. No, swear to me this day. And he, speaking of Esau, swore to him, and he sold his birthright to Yaqub. No, it didn't say he sold it for money or whatever like that. It was the giving of the word. You understand? That provided the deed. And this is something that's known in law, even to this day. And even the Gentile law has a shadow of this. You understand? And it's in full effect and full force and in form, the very same thing, giving that word. Of course, nowadays they'll say they need something written, so forth and so on. But we have that which is written. We have the Met of Kedus. This is our written, you understand, law. You understand, the law and the order, and the orit represents that order, law and order. This is why we study it, because we need to know what is our, what sort of prerogatives, duties do we have, you understand, as true sons and daughters of the King of Kings and his Christ, especially in this prophetic revelation time, as 2012 and as other signs of the times are continually revealing to us, unless you're blind, dumb, and deaf, exactly what time we're in. Verse 34, to complete the chapter, says, then Yaqub gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, gave him some kawat, gave Esau some kawat, and he did eat and drink, and rose up, and he went his way. Sounds like that part where it said they ate and they drank and they rose up to play. Esau rose up, you understand, and went his way. Thus, thus Esau despised his birthright. Now some would say it was because he had to sell it for something to eat, that's why he despised. No. When it says thus Esau despised his birthright, that's saying it was like this. This is an example of how he despised his birthright. Because you have to recognize the stories and the spirituality and the morality of the family. So he had that opportunity to know. It wasn't like he was in a so-called godless family. You know, the ones that didn't know God or have any interaction. You know what I'm saying? He should always understand what that birthright actually meant. But he sold that birthright, that firstborn status. So within the ancient Kamite mythos, Esau was the HERU or the HORUS until he sold that. So we see an interchange and exchange of the types spiritually, but now being manifested by covenant.